Hello everyone, this is Highlander from MTG Cardsmith doing another custom Magic the Gathering card review, and I have my special guest with me, Island.
Hey everybody.
And we are reviewing a card by BT9154. So let's see what we got here. This is Moona Purnama Deity. Um, we've
Another
got,
VTuber.
okay, another VTuber. I wouldn't know that if you weren't here. And this one is a god, but it actually looks like a god. Unlike
Yeah.
the dog, the
Yeah.
god dog we saw earlier. Um,
I like the I kind of like the background. Like it.
I mean, it doesn't look like magic art to me, so I always take
No,
points off
no.
for that. But I mean, as far as like, it does make this card look like a god. I mean, she's like in the
Yeah.
cosmos and everything.
What's up
So
with these mana symbols? Can we talk about
yeah,
those?
yeah, okay, yes. So sorry, I got to
How
take a
long
sip.
has Magic been out? Are these standard?
Yes. So well,
Okay.
kind of. These have shown up in like two set. Well, they've really only shown up in one set, but they've used it for one card in the last set that came out. So
I do like them.
this is called Phyrexian Mana. Okay, so the way
Okay.
Phyrexian Mana works is each one of these you can either pay its color, which in this case would be white, blue, black, red, green, or you can pay 2 life. So you can play this card for in a lot of different ways. You could play it for all 5 colors. You could play it for 4 colors and 2 life. You could play it for 3 colors and 4 life. You could play it for 2 colors and 6 life, 1 color and 8 life, or no mana at all and play it for 10 life, basically.
Okay.
Um,
That's kind of cool. I like that.
it is, but I have to say I'm generally there. I have a lot of issues with the Phyrexian mana. I actually did like a sort of a mechanic study on Phyrexian mana. I've made it quite a few Phyrexian mana cards. Um, but like the main issue. Well, I'll get to the issues with Phyrexian mana. Let's read the card first here. So we have flying and hexproof. Hexproof. Remember we talked about hexproof, and I've very often said I do not like powerful cards with hexproof. But let's keep looking. Moona enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it, where X is the amount of life paid to cast this card. Okay, as long as Moona has charge counters on it, it is not a creature.
Now, if it's not a creature, then what is it?
It's an enchantment. So this is a legendary
Okay.
enchantment creature god.
And if it's not a creature, it can't attack,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay. So the weird thing about the mana cost is like you're incentivized by the card's abilities to pay as much life as possible.
No, I think it's to pay as much. Well, let's see. Let's see what this says here. So, pay 2, put a charge counter on her. Pay 1, remove a charge counter from her. Choose 1. Create a clue or scry 1. A clue is an artifact you can pay 2 to sacrifice to draw a card.
Okay.
Um, okay, so there's a lot going on in this card. So let's kind of dissect this a little bit. So let's say you play this for 10 life, which by the way in Commander you start with 40 life. So 10 life is not actually that much life. So let's say you play this for 10 life. She comes in with 10 counters, okay, and she's an enchantment. And
You should just
then
draw 5 cards.
you can well
Does
clues.
Clue tap?
Well, so a clue is an artifact where you pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw cards. So you'd have to
Okay,
pay
so you have to
2
pay.
first. Yeah. So yeah, so basically what you could do is you could play this for 10. You could pay as much mana as you have and create that many clues or scry that many times. Um, yeah, so this card definitely incentivizes you to pay the life. And here here is like my issue with Phyrexian mana, okay? Is that life is generally a pretty easy resource to spend. Okay? So like in Commander, this is only a quarter of your life to pay 10 life for, right? And so like the equivalent of that for a 20 life deck would be like 5 life, which is like just completely, it's like nothing for a card like this, right? Like like
Yeah.
this card is basically free, essentially. Um, and that's like one big issue with Phyrexian mana is like the 2 life is a lot cheaper than the mana. Like you can play this card on turn one, basically. Um,
I mean, I'm not much of a Magic like philosopher, but I feel like the Phyrexian mana kind of like goes against theme too, right?
well,
Where-
what do you mean by that?
So it's like you know like you're especially with this card, like you just can put any mechanic you want on it, right? Because you just threw Phyrexian mana of all colors. So any mechanic that you want, and then if you're running like a mono blue deck, you can still play this card that like where you're sacrificing life, and it just feels like it's like a like I want to make a black card that has blue mechanics, so I'll just give it Phyrexian mana cost and some blue color, like
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and very smart to pick up on that because that is the other issue with Phyrexian mana is that it basically breaks color boundaries. So, for example, like here's one made by Wizards, Dismember. So Dismember is a removal spell that usually only black gets, but in this case, literally any deck can play this card,
hmm.
um, and they just have to pay 4 life to kill something essentially. But you could play this in like a green deck. You could play this in any deck, right? And usually green is not going to, access to an effect like this. And 4 life is it'll add up eventually, but it's the first instance of dismember is basically free, right?
Yeah.
Um, so like, yeah, this is not the way to do Phyrexian mana. You don't want to incentivize people to pay the life.
I think it's okay to do Phyrexian mana if you're doing a black, like a black green card, and you have to have black mana, but you can sub in the green mana if you want.
That
Uh,
or usually the way I've designed Phyrexian mana cards is you make the Phyrexian symbols colorless. So it's like
oh yeah,
you have your card might cost like double green and then like a Phyrexian colorless. And so it's like
yeah,
you can pay 2 green and 2 life, or you can pay 3. And then usually what I do is I reward the player for not paying the life because usually paying the life is like the default state of a Phyrexian mana card, right?
yeah.
Um, and
Especially in this case where it's like
yeah,
the mechanics want you to spend life too.
yeah, exactly. So like, uh, I mean, granted, it doesn't become a creature. So like, okay, so if you pay the full cost, then she's a 5/5 flying hexproof, which is it's pretty strong. But what else is strong is just being able to create as many clues as you want and drawing a bunch of cards or scrying.
Even if like the whole like flying hexproof thing wasn't even on the card, it would still be strong, I think.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that to me is a little bit much.
because here's the other thing with this is
Turn one, you can,
turn one you can play this, right?
yeah,
And then every turn you can just like scry. So okay, so let's just go through a scenario, right? So you play this turn one, you remove a counter and scry. And so now you're at 9 counters, right? Turn two you remove 2 counters, you're at 7. Turn three you go to 4 counters, and then turn four you go to 0 counters. So now on turn four you have a 5/5 flying hexproof that can attack right away, basically, and
yeah.
you've scribed 10, right? And all you've done is paid a quarter of your life. I think this card is just super busted. This card is
Yeah.
just major
And
busted.
also like it puts you like above curve, right? Because like turn one, no mana cost. You have something on the field.
Yep.
Like you can't use it yet, but it's there. And then you can also play like I don't know, like Land War Elf or whatever. Like and now you have extra mana. It's too much, I think, for
It's way too much. It's way too much. Yeah.
yeah,
I
especially in Commander where you're guaranteed to start with this.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you can't even kill it as hexproof, right? So like
Yeah,
you can't you. The thing is, if you this card is just so good to play by paying the life, and that's just like the opposite of what you want. Like what you really want is you want to reward the player for not paying life, right? You usually because like paying life for mana is a good deal. Basically, it's a very good deal. Um,
yeah,
so like you want an extra bonus for if they pay the full cost. That's usually the way you want to do these things. And in fact, Wizards has even started doing that with their latest one, which is Tamio, right here, where if you pay life, this card comes into play with 2 fewer loyalty counters. So you
Oh
get the
yeah, there we
option
go.
of playing it for 4, but it's weaker, right? And that's how cards with Phyrexian Mana should be, in my opinion. This card just doesn't even care about that. It's like, yo, turn 1, I got this, and I'm also unkillable. So like, yeah, I do not like this card. I have to give this card. I'm gonna give this card a 1 out of 5. I think not only is it overpowered, and like it also lets you play like all 5 colors of mana in your commander deck. You can play it on turn 1. It's You can't kill it because it's hexproof, and it turns into like a 5/5 flying a hexproof on turn 4. Um, it The art doesn't fit. It's not formatted correctly either, because the person wanted to fit all these words on here, so they didn't put lines between the abilities, which is what you should be doing. Um, this card, to me, it gets a 1 out of 5. It's just not a good Magic card.
Yeah, I would say I'll give it a 2 out of 5 because it functions. It's not like, you know, like throw a coin off the table and if your dog picks it up, you win the game. So,
Yeah, but that would be a 0 out of 5 for me. So
oh, I know you can go into
yeah,
0.
you can go
Wow.
0. I haven't
Okay.
found any zeros yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it a 1 out of 5 then.
Okay, so
If we can go to 0, then we're going there.
yeah, okay. All right, so 1 out of 5 for Moona Purnama
I
Deity.
don't mind the art, but yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.